Okay, so last time we got the neck reinstalled, we got all the fretwork done and everything, and we are pretty much good to go to get this strung up and get the final setup done on it. But before I get any strings onto it, there is one more step that we do have to take, and that's just to make sure that this neck is relatively straight, so that when we do put the strings on, we're going to pull in the required amount of neck relief. And that's a pretty straightforward job. We're just going to take our notched straight edge, and I've got a 10th thou feeler gauge here, and I'm just going to kind of try and slide that underneath. And that is pretty good actually. So as things stand, there isn't any need to be adjusting the truss rod just yet. So I'm going to take the tremolo off for the time being, because that is just going to be in the way. We'll get this turned over. We'll just very quickly whip this cover plate back off. Give us better access to the tremolo block and also the claw, so we can adjust the springs as needed. Now, I did have a comment regarding this scratch plate that if we've got all this buckle rash here, there would be damage on the scratch plate as well, and that is a perfectly valid thing to say. And whilst I have spent a bit of time just easing off all the corners on this scratch plate, I haven't actually relicked it in any other way. I think sometimes you can just take things a little bit too far, and I think where we are now with this one is just about right. So like I say, I haven't done anything to that. Okay, so with that out of the way, we'll just chuck a set of strings on this thing. And it was one thing that I didn't discuss with the owner, was what gauge strings he would like on. So it's getting hybrid slinkies, 9 to 46. Because that's what I use on everything. Okay, so this is all roughly in tune now, and everything seems to be working okay. However, I don't know how well you can see, but the bridge has pulled right up. Now, I don't think there's any intention to use this tremolo as a tremolo, so I'm not going to set this up as a floating trem. I'll detune it a little bit, turn it over, I'll just tighten the screws that hold the claw in right up until that pulls the bridge flat down against the body. And then hopefully from there we shouldn't have too much trouble sorting out the action on this thing. It actually looks fairly close, so hopefully not too much work to do. Okay, so that's back in tune. The action doesn't look too bad at all. It's kind of roughly where we'd need it. So I'm just going to get a cap on at the first fret. And I've just got a 12th thou feeler gauge. And we're actually spot on with that. I'm not really that surprised because even though I've taken this thing to pieces, I haven't actually changed anything. However, the action's a little bit high on this bass E string, so just drop that down a little bit. That's better. It's sat at about 1.5 mil there, which I think is a perfectly reasonable action. So next up, we just need to double check the intonation. However, I did take this bridge to pieces to fix the tremolo arm. As we can see there. And that's actually not too bad considering I totally eyeballed this bridge when I put it back together. So that's all good. And that is pretty much this thing all set up. So there's only really one thing left to do now, and that's to plug it in and see what it sounds like. And I think this is where we need to do a comparison of what this thing sounded like when it was first brought into the shop, which I will do via the magic of video now. So that's the bridge position. Bridge and middle. Middle. Middle and neck. And neck. And what it sounds like now. And I'm still using my cheap shop amp. I'm going to do a demonstration in a bit with a better amp, but and I think that sounds loads better. And I think that just demonstrates what a difference a nice set of pickups and some decent electrics can make to even a cheap guitar. For me, that sounds like an archetypal Stratocaster. I think it sounds absolutely brilliant. So with that done, I'll get it unplugged, I'll get it turned back over. We can just refit this scratch plate, and then I think we're pretty much good to go with this one for a demonstration. Okay, so I've basically got wires going everywhere. It's quite difficult to sit here and play. So I've got the guitar going straight into a Mustang Micro here, and from there straight into my laptop with Audacity running. So hopefully that will give us some nice clean audio. And I'll just basically run you through a few clean and dirty sounds, starting off with just some clean sounds. And I think that sounds very Stratocaster-y. And something a touch shoutier. And the setting I tend to use quite a lot on this amp, which is kind of their version of a Plexi, I think, at full tilt. And there we have it, another build done. This one's been a little bit different, I will admit, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's made a nice change to what I normally do. But the main purpose of this one, I think, was to hopefully convince people that there is a route into guitar building for them, and you don't have to start with blocks of wood and a router. You can actually kind of improve your skill set as a lead up to that by working on existing guitars. It's certainly what I did. I spent a long time fixing guitars and refinishing and doing other changes before I ever thought of making a full one, and I think that way of going about things seems to have paid off for me. Obviously, if anyone's read the comments, this hasn't met with universal approval. I think some people struggled to get over the relicking process, and I totally 100% get that. I know it's a very divisive issue, and I have to say, even though a lot of people didn't really like it that much, I don't think anyone was really a dick about it. And I really do think that speaks volumes about the kind of person that watches this channel. We can agree to disagree sometimes, and I think that's a very, very productive human trait. So we need to think of something else to do for the next build now, and I'm going to continue with this theme of getting back to basics. I'm not going to say too much. The next video will be along very shortly and all will be revealed then, but all I will say is it's going to be squarely aimed at helping people to get into this amazing hobby. So keep your eyes peeled for that. It'll be along in a few days' time. Until then, don't forget to hit that like button if you've enjoyed this. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Most viewers haven't, and it's really helpful if you do. And I'll be along in a few days' time with the next build. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.